Welcome, everybody. I hope that you find this the most mind-bending, life-changing and downright most interesting conversation that you've had during your Pause Fest experience here over the last couple of days. Before I start today, I just want to quickly acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people, and of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respect to the landowners past and present. Today we're here to discuss whether you can still be disruptive in a disruptive age, an age where the lifespan of companies is plummeting, jobs are being automated at an increasingly fast rate, and the cost of starting up is going through the floor. So, before I start to introduce our panel, which includes some of Australia's most disruptive disruptors, I think it's important to highlight what disruption is and what disruption is not. Disruption may be one of the most overused terms of 2016, and it's not innovation. Although the terms are used interchangeably and are the hallmarks of the technology world, they are very, very different. Innovation is the constant evolution of a product, service, or process of getting things done. An example of this would be our mailing system. Originally, messages were translated from village to village on the back of animal skins. This then advanced to carrier pigeons, and then we started to see scrolls being moved from country to country by shipping fleets, and then to airmail. But none of this really dramatically changed how physical mail was moved. It was only when the interweb and email was launched that things changed dramatically. You see, disruption completely changes how things are done. Once we feel the impact of disruption, things are changed forever, and we can never go back. While the mention of disruption tends to strike terror into the minds of executives all around the world, the phenomenon tends to lead to greater efficiency, life-changing results, and cost saving. So, without further ado, please let me introduce you to today's panel, who I trust will challenge and hopefully rupture the way that you think about disruption. Firstly, please let me introduce you to Nick Lavidge. Nick is the CEO and founder of Iles, which is one of Australia's fastest growing startups. Iles is a hybrid between a global digital marketing agency and big data house that specialises in increasing customer count and revenue for online retailers. With a starting capital of $8,000, he has built a team of 9 employees across 2 countries in 2 years, with an annual turnover of more than $3.6 million, which he forecasts growing to more than $10 million this calendar year. Nick is originally from Phoenix, Arizona, and in 2008 graduated from LA's USC Marshall School of Business with a degree in finance and entrepreneurship. While Nick doesn't necessarily label himself as an entrepreneur, and I think he might slightly be in denial there, he will tell you that he really enjoys business, purely because it's the most complicated game of common sense. So please welcome Nick. Our second panellist is the exceptionally talented, brave and magnetically personable Taryn Williams. Taryn is one of Australia's top young entrepreneurs, named as a finalist of the 2015 Entrepreneur Awards, as well as the B&T and Smart Company 30 Under 30. A former model, Taryn founded Wink Models in 2007, which is a leading commercial modelling agency with over 650 staff and an annual turnover of more than $3 million. Anthill Online has named Wink as one of Australia's top 100 coolest companies. Taryn recently launched theright.fit, a digital platform which will disrupt the status quo among talent agencies and their clients. theright.fit aims to revolutionise modelling and talent in industry by removing hidden commissions and bias, empowering users of the platform with information and facts they need to make informed decisions about their next job or casting. Taryn is a regular contributor to Smart Company, Business Insider, and a veteran participant of the Pause Fest stage. Please welcome Taryn. Next, we've got the infectiously positive, driven and fun-loving Nick Bell. Nick is best described as a serial entrepreneur, BRW, young rich lister and successful investor. Nick is known as one of Australia's most prolific self-made businessmen. Despite being a university dropout and in 2008 being down to his last $400, Nick was ranked 38 on the 216 BRW Young Rich list. The result came off the back of a hell of a lot of hard work and the business successes that included his halo companies, WME and Appscore. WME is a digital marketing company that specialises in web design and development, SEO optimisation, social media marketing, content production, pay-per-click advertising and digital reputation management. Nick has grown WME into a multinational company with several international offices, including Los Angeles, Dubai, Hong Kong, and it has more than 450 staff, more than 4,000 clients, and an annual turnover of more than $50 million. In 2010, Bell founded Appscore with former ANZ project manager and BHP Billiton consultant, Alex Louey. So lastly, it's a perfect segue to Alex, who's a highly respected Australian entrepreneur, a digital pioneer and best mate of Nick. Alex is a co-founder of... Bit of love. Alex is a co-founder of Appscore, which launched in 2010, and is a company that does exactly what it says it does. It has apps at its core. Essentially, the business is a leading digital marketing agency that specialises in UX, UI, design and SEO. It has offices in 7 countries and an annual turnover of more than $15 million. His passion for digital, particularly when it comes to user experience, led him to leave behind a lucrative corporate career and chase his own business goals. In just 6 years, Alex has taken Appscore from a bootstrapped small business to one of the leading digital agencies in Australia, focused on making the lives of Australians a little more easier and a little more productive. Appscore counts Apple and Telstra as partners and has clients including Mercedes and BP. And if you've ever used Tram Tracker or apps from Melbourne Airport or NAB, you've been using an app that Alex has worked directly on. So a big welcome to Alex. So now that we've got that out of the way, maybe I might ask Nick Bell first. Can you kick things off with giving a brief explanation as why you chose to disrupt the traditional model of going to school, getting a degree, getting into a corporate gig, and choosing the rather challenging lifestyle of an entrepreneur?
Look, to be honest, initially I actually did get to university. The plan was to finish high school, get to university, get a corporate job. That was drilled into me as a kid, and I was going to do that. And then after 6 weeks at university, I just sat there. I wanted to go drive my car. I wanted to go have fun with girls. Pardon this is a long time ago. I just wanted to have a good time, and university wasn't for me at this stage. And I've always been a practical person, always hands-on. I need to work rather than study. It's just the way I was built. And I dropped out of university, went and worked in restaurants and bars and clubs for 5 years, learned how to service people, manage people, and then from there I took those skills and started a business. So traditionally I was getting a university, it just wasn't for me.
Yep.
As simple as that.
Very cool. Now, Nick, Lavidge, you actually took a bit more of the traditional route at the start and then came to the entrepreneurial world a little later. Is that correct?
No, I jumped around a bit. So basically went to university, sat in class and still chased girls and drove my car. But I went to class like once or twice a week and got through. And then when I was in uni, I started my first company, which was nothing involved in what I do now, voice-controlled electronics. And so went down the route of being an entrepreneur from early on. When I exited that, I went back into the corporate world. And so worked for Luxottica and some really big corporate companies. I mean, Luxottica, I think, has over 20,000 employees. So, it was actually really a good learning experience. I think there's a lot of value kind of going both different ways. I learned how to deal with red tape and big budgets and egos and all those different things that you might not get in a smaller environment. And before leaving that and coming back to start my own thing. So it's kind of been a little bit of a full circle for me.
Cool.
Can I jump in for 1 second? When I actually recruit staff or team members, I actually never look at the education. If someone's got an MBA, it's almost a turn-off for me because they've studied so much and don't have the practical experience to deliver the job. So I never look at the education. I always look at the experience, the person themselves, and whether they've got common sense.
Good point. Thanks for throwing that in. Taryn, what was your journey?
Yeah, I did go to school, did go to university. I dropped out also of university, a fellow dropout. I was in the very last year of my university degree. I was studying international relations and politics, and I was offered an opportunity to go and work in Korea. And I'd handed in all my final assignments, passed all of my exams, and the university said that they would fail me based on attendance if I didn't come for the last 2 weeks of school, which I thought was ridiculous. So it kind of started my path of like fighting against bureaucracy and looking for a better way to do things. And I decided it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so dropped out. Didn't get my degree purely based on attendance, and packed up and went to work in Korea.
Alex?
I actually did go to uni and I had a corporate job.
The black sheep.
So I'm a little bit different, probably a bit like Nick. And then what I realised was as I was going through my corporate sort of gig was that I just kept on moving from company to company to company, doing the same stuff over and over again, but not really making a significant difference. So I worked for most of the major banks and I just did the same thing over and over again. Nick and I are flatmates, well, were flatmates, and I guess some of his...
And best friends, right?
And best mates, yeah. And towards the end of my, let's say, corporate gig, his sort of entrepreneurship sort of rubbed off on me. And we went out and started Appscore, started off with $3,000. I did everything from selling to project management to hiring to everything. Like, I was a one-man show, well, two. And then from there, it just sort of...
Ouch.
And it just sort of like grew and grew and grew. To where we are today. But the key thing is, you know what, it's hiring great people, people that are innovative, people that are driven, and it's getting the people that are right culture to fit your drive and motivation.
So I think, as I said in the intro, disruption has just been a term that's been so thrown around, especially last year. It was kind of the buzzword. But does it really matter? What do you think, Taryn?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if any established, like, corporate or incumbent is not looking at the landscape that they play in, then absolutely they're going to be disrupted. It's still definitely so important. I mean, there's all of the... yes, it is a sort of hype word at the moment. I definitely think there's some other more applicable words that can be used in certain situations. So, but yeah, I think it's incredibly important. If people aren't looking at the landscape and worrying about disruption, then they are absolutely going to be left behind. The fastest way to go backwards is to stand still, I think.
Alex?
I think disruption is well overused. On a day-to-day basis, I prefer to use the word innovation because I think sometimes you don't realise disruption until it's actually happened. And I know a lot of companies go, I'm going to disrupt this, I'm going to just disrupt that. But you sort of look at it and go, what's your business model? How are you going to massively change an industry? And you don't know until it's actually happened. If you look back on Uber, they probably didn't go, I'm going to go disrupt the taxi industry. It's more about, I'm just going to go build an app and see if I can get a service that people would like to use. And it's only after the fact that you suddenly realise, I've put an entire industry of people, that have to change. Other companies have to, big companies that have sat there being happy and on having to change the way they operate and provide better customer service.
That's a perfect segue. Nick Bell, which company do you think over the last 10 years has probably been the most disruptive and why?
As we discussed last night, and follow on from Alex, definitely Uber. And the reason I say Uber, obviously they disrupted the taxi industry, but there's so many businesses now use Uber technology for their own business. For example, Wiz, which is a cleaning business, or there's mobile masseuse, where you can basically get a masseuse and come to your house. And it's Deliveroo, Foodora, they're all using Uber technology. For me, you can't go past Uber in the past 15 years or 10 years.
Nick, have you got another company that sort of stands out as a major disruptor?
Yeah, I would agree with Uber. I'd probably put that as my number one, and like very close second would be Airbnb. And I think both are very, very similar in the way they work. I mean, you're going up against either taxi unions that have always been the way that they have, and they're saying, nothing's going to change. We've been doing this forever, and we're able to lobby and be able to make it successful. And then these companies come in and say, well, we're going to be able to provide a better service at a lower cost. It's much more scalable, and it's going to be better for the ultimate consumer. It doesn't matter about your lobbying and all these traditional values that you look at. So I would definitely agree with Nick. As Uber and Airbnb would be a second one.
Cool. So what do you all think about? Is this the most disruptive time that we're living in history, or is this just a period of disruption? Alex?
I think that I think we're just going through a period of disruption. I think, as you've mentioned before, the cost of starting a business has come way down. The cost of technology and building technology has come way down, and there's so many people that are, I guess, looking to start their own things, looking to go outside the corporate thing, and changing the way that they want to live their lives. I think it's faster change, and I think that generally leads to disruption. So it's the fast change is not necessarily that we are in a disruptive age, it's just that it's moving so quickly. It's just a natural path.
Nick Bell, do you think that pace is going to pick up, slow down?
Has it ever slowed down? It's always been constant throughout the ages. There's always been change and innovation. I don't think it's ever going to slow down. Will it speed up? Potentially. There's a lot happening out there. There's a lot of young, smart people coming through who are doing some amazing things. So I think it will definitely speed up.
Okay. Taryn?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there's so many interesting technologies. I mean, I would love to hear more about what you do in the artificial intelligence space, but there's so many amazing technologies like AI, VR, blockchain technologies, I think, that are going to change things so much in the very, very short term. In the next 6 to 12 months, I think we're going to see huge advances. So, yeah, I definitely think it's going to speed up.
AI is definitely going to change the game.
Yeah, can you tell us more, please?
Go for it. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about how your company's been disruptive in the industry that it plays in, and then what you sort of see the next wave of disruption being in your industry.
Yeah, so I'm going to use the word disrupt. So I think the way that we disrupt is we take the traditional agency model, right? So, and it works for a lot of different areas, but we'll say specifically in digital marketing where we play. And it's really kind of based off of very similar to what a law firm is, or any type of kind of service-based industry. You hire people, you pay those people a certain amount, and you charge more per hour than you pay those people. You hopefully at the end of the day make a profit. So we focus specifically on consumer retail brands. So like Netgear, who makes like 80% of the routers in the world, or all the like Ray-Ban or whatever it may be, people that are buying products. So when our clients spend money on marketing, they need to make money. And so we don't really have the luxury of being able to have inconsistencies in people. So, if someone breaks up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, has a bad day, makes a mistake trading, that can affect the overall ROI of a campaign. In addition to where a human might analyze, say, 5 to 10 different variables like age, gender, time of day, geo-targeting, whatever it may be, our algorithms look at 12 million. So just doing things that humans can't do, just will never be able to do. And also too in real time. So as we're drinking beers, while we're sleeping, we're shifting budgets to the micro segments that make the most money for our clients. And so, while a traditional agency might look at a campaign once a week or even once a day if they're on task. So the way we kind of looked at it is we want to scale with people or scale with technology as well as with good people, not just with people. Our goal would be to do 50 million in revenue with less than 50 staff. And we're pretty much on pace to do that. So it's a little bit different than the traditional model. And moving forward to the future, it's at what point does it become all AI? I think everything in digital marketing with big data now is going to be very easy to work people out of it. And it's interesting to see where do we play? Because right now we're a little bit ad tech, a little bit agency. Do we become all ad tech, which is actually an area that I personally don't want to play in. And so it really just depends on where we kind of see humans fitting into that. Because I don't think AI is necessarily a negative thing. We look at the railroads, and when people are like, this is going to take away jobs, when there's machines that can put in the stakes. Actually, AI has been proven to create more jobs than it takes away. So it'll be really interesting to see how just it moves and it evolves. And I'm not exactly sure what it will be, but I do believe that it will be very, very significant part in our industry.
Very cool. Taryn, do you want to explain a bit more about your journey in the business and how it disrupted in the industry that you play in, and then the future and where you're going?
Sure. So I'm in a pretty interesting situation in that I have both what you would refer to as the traditional incumbent, which is my first business, Wink Models, which I started 10 years ago, and my new business, The Right Fit, which is an online marketplace which disrupts that traditional agency. So Wink Models, obviously, traditional offline agency, 650 models Australia-wide. The Right Fit is an online marketplace for creative talent. So we have all of those creative talent, photographers, models, makeup artists, hairstylists, videographers, 17 different categories. And brands can post a brief and connect with them direct. So removes all the middleman, removes all the pain points. Basically, over the last sort of 3 years, we were seeing all the changes that you would all have been seeing in the world as well. So small bits of digital snackable content being produced at a rate much faster than ever before. Always on social channels and brands needing to feed those social channels. Social media influencers coming onto the scene and being a thing. And the type of talent, a thing, influence is another hype word that we can talk about on another day. And so basically we saw all of these changes happening. The type of talent that were required for campaigns being more authentic, people wanting people in their campaigns to really reflect their target demographic. So all of these things sort of were leading me to think, that the traditional offline modelling agency world is going to be disrupted at some point. People can now reach out to someone on social media. They can engage with the social media influencer to either star in or amplify their campaign. I wanted to be at the forefront of that. So we created The Right Fit, as I said, two-sided marketplace that allows people to engage with those talent directly, put up a brief, find, cast and book them all through the platform. We handle all of the payment process. So moving forward, what are we doing? Expanding, adding more talent categories. So freelance directors, we've got 17 different categories at the moment, voiceover artists, musicians and DJs, venues. So we'll continue to service in our space, so the creative industry, but we'll continue to expand that. So continuing to disrupt just different industries.
Very cool. And Alex, do you want to tell us just maybe collectively between the two of you, Nick and you together, a little bit more about Appscore? And there's a lot of disruption clearly in the marketing space. We've heard some of it from Nick's perspective, but what you're seeing and where the future for you guys is going?
So what we do is a lot of times we help clients become innovative. We work with a lot of big companies, everything from NAB to Telstra, and they're great, but they're very bureaucratic. So as let's call a medium-sized company, we go in and we facilitate them to become innovative. So we work in their startup labs, we have hackathons, and we work a bunch of things where we get ideas working for them, we build them quickly, we don't have all the red tape required to get resources and all that sort of jazz. They come to us and we help them push through the process. For us, it's really continue to escalate that. So our consulting team, they sit amongst some of these big companies, helping their tech teams, helping their leadership team write business cases. A lot of the grunt work required to be innovative fast. So we can get resources in and out quickly. It might take them, 6 months to get one contractor in or something like that. So that's a focus on where we're going. But companies that we work with around re-engineering their customer experience, something along the lines of, when you go service your car, right? You go meet up, the service guy comes in, you've got to talk to them. You really just want to get your car in and out with the least amount of fuss. So we're re-engineering an entire sort of customer process where you drop your keys off, you never see them again, and you come pick it up, you pick up your keys and you go. You don't need to speak to anybody, right? And people like that, right? People just want to get shit done, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we help them do.
Cool. So, if we're so aware of disruption like each of you are, why do businesses and products keep failing? Nick, do you want to have a stab at that?
I've invested in a few businesses, probably too many.
Some that have failed? Was that where that was going?
That's why we're
I've had
asking
some
you the
nightmares.
question.
And every single time that business has failed, it's not the product, it's not the service, it's the person driving the business. It's the management team. It's always the person driving the business. Most businesses will work. You can make money in anything you do, really, if you've got some common sense. You could open a restaurant. Honestly, you can. You can make money in anything you do if you get the basics right. It's all the basics, the marketing, the service, deliver on what you promise, people, the branding, manage your cash flow. If you don't manage, cash flow is number one, actually. If you don't manage your cash flow, you're done. And I've invested in probably 15, 20 businesses, and I think 4 have failed. And the only reason they failed, they didn't manage cash flow, they didn't take on advice from the investors, and they took holidays and they worked 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. If you start a business, you cannot work 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. You work Saturday, Sunday, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week until you get the job done. And it's never done, but you can kind of calm down a bit once you kick an ass. So that's why most businesses fail. It's a person at the top. Simple as that.
Nick Lavidge, have you got another opinion?
No, I agree with that 100%. Okay. I think amazing person probably won't have a bad product or bad idea. So there is a chance that could be the other way around, but I would agree 99% of the time it comes down to the management team, the people running it. There's a lot of great companies that failed on the back of bad management. So, yeah, I agree.
Taryn, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, I would just say it's not. I think sometimes with big incumbents, it's those big ships are really, really hard to turn. So it's not necessarily small startups failing. It can be big incumbent businesses being disrupted by these small startups because they are so big. As you touched on earlier, like the level of bureaucracy that they need to get through to get something done, to be able to pivot or make a change in their product or their offering or their service or whatever it might be, can be incredibly difficult. So for them to be able to make even a small change can take, a year or 2 years to get that signed off when, you're being disrupted by a small startup that's incredibly nimble, low barriers to entry, and they can come in and...
To follow on from Taryn, actually, you've got to have urgency in business. I've actually outlawed meetings in my company. You cannot have meetings, internal meetings. And if you want a meeting, you need to have an agenda, and the meeting has to be timed. Maximum 10 minutes. There's no sit-down meetings. Because people will sit there and talk, pardon the French, shit for 2 hours and have no outcome, have no action plan, and they've just wasted 2 hours. There's no point to it. You've got to have urgency in business, and you can't have time wasters.
Alex, is that something you've put into Appscore as well? Or are you still having meetings? We've met. We've met. We had a good meeting.
No. We do something very similar. But the thing with working with big companies is that you need to know how to run a meeting and you need to push them. So what we do with our large corporates is we set half-an-hour meetings. We know if we set a 1 hour meeting, they will talk for an hour. Somebody will want to talk for an hour and talk rubbish for an hour. So half an hour, you'll use up the time and then we move on to the next thing.
Now, we've got such amazing people in the room. I don't want to hog them all to myself and ask questions. So has anyone got a question that you'd like to ask these amazing guys and girls? Do you want to just stand up and introduce yourself?
Oh, sure.
Where you're from and what your questions?
Oh, hi. I'm Warren. I've got a small creative agency. Thanks for sharing your stories. So one of the things we've been wrestling with this week is getting people to trust technology. Like, even if you say you're a technology company or even if you believe in it yourself, as an agency, if we stand up and say you're a technology company, people kind of go, ooh. Like, if you ever stand behind people at pedestrian crossings, you'll see someone push a button and then the next person will see them. They'll push the button too. Like, it's weird. We all love it, but we don't trust it. And we've been going through some of the same decisions that you went through. Do we invest in technology or people or what do we scale? So the question is to all of you, like, how do you get people to trust technology? On scale and in brave new ways,
I think getting people to trust technology just comes down to not putting too much on them. So if you, let's say, you build a software that is cumbersome for people to use, they're going to get confused. So you start with the small stuff, the most important piece. I'm sure you've all heard the term MVP or MMP, minimum marketable product, minimum viable product. Right? Start small, get them to trust the technology and build on top of that. If you build something that is so monstrous that people go, I don't know where to start, they're going to go, I'm just going to give up. You'll have no uptake.
Personally, I like to idiot-proof everything I build. So I've just built a sales CRM for my sales guys, and it's so easy a 3-year-old could use it. So I believe make every single thing idiot-proof. Make it simple that everyone can use and show the value in the product. You've got to show them that it works. If they believe it works, they'll use it.
All of us. I would say, own the user experience from start to finish. So when we first launched theright.fit, I was like, it's a marketplace. They come, they buy, they don't get any help. Otherwise, that's an agency, right? I've got one of those. Don't want one of those. I want a marketplace. So we were like, no, we're going to be very hands-off. You will come. We've built great UX. They will be able to use it. They will check out and they will purchase the things that they need. And it took us about 4 weeks to really start to realize, okay, people still need, that user experience doesn't just stop online. They want to be able to call you. They want to be able to ask questions. They want, if they're a huge advertising agency, they want us to come out and present. They want to know that there's real people behind that. So we made a decision really on in the piece to own the customer service experience. So from start to finish, whether that's the first face-to-face meeting that they have, the social media that they engage with online, has the same consistent tone of voice. It's safe, it's secure. How can we help you? There's real people here, to build that trust. So, I don't know, worth having a think about how else you communicate with them outside of just the platform itself.
Yeah, I think quite often, like, if you're just doing part of it, there's so many places that can fail.
Yeah.
I must have done that half a dozen times.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Insisting that you own
Yep. So we deal with that a ton. And so for us, the trust really comes by just like anything over time, consistency, delivering on what you say you're going to do. Where it comes in for us comes into, and I won't go too deep into like attribution modeling and things like that, but when we say, oh, okay, when you invest $1 that you make 5, are we doing that off of last click, compression, 28 view through, algorithmic linear regression modeling? And so what we found is like we developed really complicated regression modeling that I think is really cool to look at the whole customer journey. And there we found out that our clients just didn't trust it at all. So we shelved it like after 6 months, and we actually stepped back and went to really basic modeling, going down and like, so simple, I could explain it to a 3-year-old, idiot proofing it. So we do kind of basic, we do really complex modeling inside, but to our clients, we work with them to find a modeling that they like the best, that they feel like they're actually getting revenue back, and they feel comfortable with that. And then over time, they build trust and they invest more dollars as we can show the return on the like playing field that they want to be on.
Who else has got a question? Let's get the mic to you.
Hey guys, I'm Rob. I'm from a small creative agency in Sydney. How do you deal with people who are too innovation happy or too disruptive happy? For example, I have clients who they want a VR app, but that money would be better spent on a great piece of social content. How do you rein people back from being too intense on being innovative?
I force my clients to make money with their money. So it's actually surprisingly hard to do sometimes. So there's, the crawl, walk, run. And so we go, okay, let's get the low hanging fruit, and then we can do experimental things, budgets, things that you want to work on that are really cool. But, you as a marketing director or whatever you may be, you need to make money or else you're going to get fired. So let's make money. And then from that money, let's use that money to invest in things that are cool, like VR and other areas like that.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that. We just worked on a VR campaign for a big, very, very big corporate, and it's had like 400 views online, and they spent a good part of $1 million on it. So I don't know, if you've got the answer, then let us know, because it's so hard. They get fixated on an idea. They want to be first to market with this leading VR thing, or this amazing whatever it might be. We see so much junk technology in creative industries. You would see this as well. People who build a standalone app that's run for a month for a creative campaign and then ditched and never looked at again. And it's such a shame, because they could be, as you say, spending that money elsewhere. So I don't know, probably trying to help your clients understand. But yeah, no, I don't think there's a silver bullet solution.
Look, it's our job to guide the client in the right direction. If I feel it's not going to work for them, I say, look, this is not going to work for you, but why don't we do this, this and this instead, and it'll deliver this for you. We're the experts, we need to guide them. It's very, very simple.
So just following that, so what we do is we have consultants that do deep dive into the customer's business and try to understand their problems and work together to find a solution that fits. So if they want to do VR and we understand their problem and we ask them, we get all their stakeholders involved. The marketing guy might go, I want VR, but the operational people, I don't know what VR is. I don't know how to use it. I've got fat thumbs, right? It just doesn't work in the mining industry. So that's what we do. It's our business to have long-term relationships, and although it's easy to go, you know what, the marketing guy's got $500,000, let's just spend that, right? It's not good for the long-term business. You just burn your customers, you don't provide value, so it's all about value. Everything we do, it's all about value, not how we see the benefits. We try to understand how customers see the benefits.
Go for it.
Hi, I have a question about your workforce and I guess people and talent, and how you find it in I guess your sectors. Is it hard to find talented people with the certain skill sets to kind of allow your companies to succeed and grow, or is it easy to find the right people and kind of take them with you in the journeys and whatnot?
It's actually really, it's hard to find people that are superstars. So it's easy to find good developers, it's easy to find good creatives, it's easy to find, but it's hard to find the superstars. So whenever we've got a talent program, whenever when the management team identifies people like that, we give them mentorship, we send them on courses, we make sure that they know their value, and we make sure that they know that we value them. And that's how we build our culture, because it's going to be a few leaders that is going to take your company to the next level. And it's also the ones that want to. So it's almost like I'll invest time in people that want to succeed rather than people that are just there to come do a 9-to-5 job.
With my business, it's a very good question, by the way. With my business, it's very human resource heavy. I've got hundreds of people, and to have 400 rock stars would be amazing. Unfortunately, that's not possible. You have to invest heavily into training. And when we hire people, like I mentioned earlier, I don't look at education. I look for common sense, how they present, are they good with clients, how they articulate a conversation, their experience as well. But you need to train your people constantly and also systemize your business. Idiot-proof your business so people cannot make mistakes. If they do make a mistake, pick it up quickly, but you need to systemize it from the start to finish.
Yeah, it's really, really difficult. I would say in any business, it's the hardest thing is getting the team right. Finding the right people that align with your culture, I think, was the hardest thing for us. So we spent a lot of time getting really, really clear on what our values were, what our culture was, and then using that right through the hiring process. So from getting very, very clear from interview 1 with people about what we stood for, making sure that they were on the same page, and then just being brutally honest and transparent about what the company looked like, what the role was going to look like, where we see them growing and developing. So there was no nasty surprises in 3 months' time. And then, like hiring slow and firing really, really fast, getting people out the door. Yeah, it sucks. And like your first couple, you're like, oh, but maybe if I change the role and like made it like this and gave them a time. No, you just got to let them go. Free them to something else that's more suitable for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not much to say after. I mean, I think all 3 panelists nailed it. It's very difficult to find. Training is a huge portion of it. Hiring for culture is even bigger. I think one of the things that because that's when I come in, I'm usually the last person to interview, and all I do is interview on culture. And it's kind of one of those things that can be like really fluff, but you can't really teach culture. I think that's a really misconception. Like you can only hire culture. You can only hire people that embody your company's values. Like I can't teach a lazy person to work hard, but I can teach them how to do Facebook ad buying. Like that's pretty straightforward. So I mean, it's implementing those training programs, putting systems in place so it's easy for them. Being really clear and transparent about the role. I think that happens a lot with startups. You get nervous and you oversell people, and then they get in and they realize it's not. You have to be honest, like this is a startup. You're not going to lead by 5 all the time, but it's going to be fun and rewarding, and there's going to be big upside. I think that those are all really important things. But moral of the story, it's really hard.
Who else has got a question? Down here in the third row.
I'm Daisy and I'm working on like Uber of massage. I was just wondering, what are some of the... do you have any stories of when you first started a business and you failed or it just didn't work out and you're like, how did I not know that? Like some lessons, I guess, from your very first business that you might have started, or you guess you might have invested in it.
Yeah, mine was learning how to delegate. I was a massive bottleneck in my business. I wanted to touch everything. I wanted to interview everyone, like from day one, all of the rounds of interviewing. I wanted to meet every single client. I wanted to meet every single talent. I wanted to like literally do everything because I was a massive control freak. And it totally prevented us from scaling. It was like a huge problem for us. I just could not step away from, wanting to be involved in every single tiny little element. And it wasn't until I actually realised I was the massive bottleneck and having to take that step back and be like, wow, I've just totally, for probably a 12-month period, been like the biggest pain point in our business and stopped us from growing. So that would be my advice, is try and like find your tribe, get these people around you, flourishing alongside you, delegate, get them excited about your vision, tell them your vision, get them excited about being part of a startup, and otherwise you're never going to be able to grow and scale.
2 situations. When you invest in businesses that you know and you understand. I invested into a Vietnamese restaurant 5 years ago, and I lost $1 million in it. I had no idea about the restaurant. It was poor management. It was a disaster. Now I invest in businesses I understand, and generally tech businesses. And also, when I started my main business, I hired poorly. I didn't have the money to hire good people. I didn't train them well at the start, and my business wasn't systemised. So in the early days, I had a lot of trouble retaining staff and actually delivering on what I promised. Then I hired good people. When I got money, then I hired good people, and then I systemised and trained. You need to hire well from day one because it will affect your business. It's a disease in your business. It's so important.
I think one of the key things that I learned was to stay focused and stay on strategy. I think, you know what, a lot of startups, we're all talking to innovative people and we come to events like this and everybody's got a great idea and everybody's got to make it work. And often as an entrepreneur, you sort of go, all right, that's a good idea. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should do that. That's a good idea. I can bolt this on and, you know, generate more revenue. And you're doing everything that you can to bolster your cash flow when you first start. But the thing that I found in, you know, the last couple of years is that you've got to stay on target and stay on focus. Otherwise, you do nothing well, you do everything bad, and you don't have a business at the end.
Yeah, I once again agree pretty much everything there. I think the one that I would touch on would be cash flow. That was something I'm like, this is actually really easy. Why doesn't anyone ever tell you about this? And so, you know, we started and it was just like a marginal investment. Like I just threw $8,000 in the company and we grew really fast. So we had an issue with cash flow and trying to pump money back into the business. And then I was like, well, I post-bill right now. Why don't I just pre-bill? And then why don't I negotiate my terms? So after the post-bill, I have to pay 45 days after. So technically I have 2.5 months from the time I receive the money until I have to pay it. And if they're late a month, I still have another 6 weeks until I have to pay it. And really common sense, right? But like no one ever really told me to do that. And now, like, you know, I think, you know, we don't have cash flow problems at all. And it's because we have the very simple strategy on cash flow.
Is there a mantra that each of you have, just listening to your stories, like that one thing whenever you hit a troubled time that you come back to a central mantra or a central, this is what I should do to take my business forward?
This will pass. I think, like, yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I think about all the time is I think like a startup is like a roller coaster. The highs are really high, the lows are really low. And the first time you do the roller coaster, it's really scary, but the more and more times you go around, the highs kind of get a little numbed and the lows get a little bit numb. So you know when the highs are good, you definitely value those and you should put those in your pocket and remember them. But you also know when the lows are going to go, it's just probably going to last a couple days or weeks or whatever it may be, and you'll be back up on that high. So.
Yours is really nice. No, mine, I tell my team every day that we're going to war. Like, this is a war. You are going to war. This is not a joke. You get one shot at this. So you are going to war every single day. Like, go home and tell your family, like, you know, I'm not going to see you because I'm at work. And this is a war for the next 6 months. Like, I need every single, like, bit of blood, sweat and tears out of you. You need to love this job. If you don't, like, pack shit and go home today. Because it's not going to get easier. It's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it. It's going to suck for 6 months, but it's got a lot of upside. That's the joy of being in a startup. But you need to be like fully focused and incredibly like passionate about what you do. And otherwise, don't come to work for me.
Yeah.
Go work for him because it's nicer there.
I do that too.
For me personally, if there's a challenge or a problem in the business, I look at the problem and I go, okay, I need to do this to fix it, and I just do it. I don't talk about it. I don't go have meetings about it. I go, this is the problem, this is the solution, let's just make it happen. And I work my ass off to do it. It's very, very simple. Do not overcomplicate your business. Keep things simple. I find too many entrepreneurs talk, but the delivery is very, very little. They put in a LinkedIn, I'm an entrepreneur. But of what?
Yeah.
You've just got to get it done and minimise the talk and just deliver on what you say you're going to do.
I always try to just keep it simple. So it's often if someone comes to you with a problem, it's like, what's the simplest solution? Don't overcomplicate it. Don't sit there and try to get all the data in the world to second guess yourself. If your gut says to you, get it done, and just do it, just choose that option. Just do it, and you'll find out very quickly if you're wrong. And just know that if you're wrong, you can fix it quickly as well, right? You're better off making the decision and getting some action than sitting back and trying to find all the data and trying to analyse it, trying to second guess yourself. Because that's when time just slipped by and your competitor will be over you in a second.
Is there anyone else out there with a question? Go for it.
Hi, my name's Grant. I'm from Ozpost. So we're actually looking at it from the other way, right? So we are wanting to be disruptors in a very large bureaucracy that you said is very hard to move and very hard to turn. So then what we need to do is then look at the values of a disruptor. So what do you think are the good values of a good disruptor?
It's a tough one.
Good question.
It's a good question. I think a good disruptor is one that is constantly pushing the envelope. You've got to constantly be, let's call it innovative, to find out that you're disruptive. If you disrupt once and you sit happy in your laurels like, you know what, business is good, I'm not having any problems. As I said, you've got so many small startups that are just coming up your rear trying to overtake you. So I think you've got to constantly be pushing the envelope. I think you've got to make sure you've got a good team of people, good culture, and take it from there.
Basically, to follow on from Alex, you need good people, you need to have urgency, you just need to get it done. You can talk about having values and this and that, rah, rah, rah. It's the people behind it and the urgency behind it.
I think you're in such an interesting position. I spoke to Adam at The Iconic about you guys let him in he was trying to solve some shipping problems and that they couldn't get overnight delivery happening, and that Australia Post actually let them in to go through and walk through their centres and find a way that they could get overnight delivery happening right up until 1 a.m. when the close off used to be like 5 p.m. So I think you're obviously doing some things right, like you're open to looking externally and bringing those people in. I think building a culture where failure is okay in an organisation like that, I think would be really difficult. Obviously, you've got bosses, you've got people, levels of seniority and bureaucracy to get through, and I think it needs to be okay if you're going to innovate, if people are going to be willing to change things and come up with ideas, it has to be okay that they're wrong sometimes. So I think trying to find a way to build that in, building in maybe product teams and siloing in, let them run their own P&L and let them, work on a particular new development and have that. It needs to be completely siloed, I think, from the entire organisation so that they are working really autonomously and not caught up in that bureaucracy. Yeah.
It's challenging corporate.
Yeah, super challenging.
Yeah, I would agree with all that, and especially the silent. I mean, disruption, effective disruption, comes down to execution, just like any idea, right? So it's just getting rid of the layers of red tape for that, which at times can be difficult. But then if you look at siloing different teams, if that's even a possibility of doing, then you can maybe get around that and have a little bit of get out of hall free pass in order to actually do something that's going to change. It really just comes down to just taking out bureaucracy, but that has to start really from the top down.
Go for it. Second row here.
Hi. Jake Norris. I work for World Vision. I'm curious about the whole culture of making failure okay. I like the idea of it, but in a startup culture, failure can be catastrophic. So how do you balance those two kind of things about, you might have limited cash flow or, whatever the thing may be, but then saying, well, yes, you can fail and we can move forward from that.
Another great question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it comes down to taking lots of little risks rather than one big risk. And I think someone told me one time, like it's really good to pivot, but it's not good to jump. So, when you look at it, and that's where the MVP comes in, I think that's with disruption is an overused term, but the way I view it is you have something and you need to get to market and you need to listen to your customers, listen to the data. And then if you fail in that micro instance, you can keep on fine tuning your service or product or whatever it may be in order to get it to a point where it actually is good market fit. The kicker on that too is that it's never going to end. You're going to keep on having to do that pivot. I think people think they go, I have amazing market fit. We're here. And then I just need to sit still. And then you're the one being disrupted in 5 years. So I think it's just really important to, if you take risks, it's not going to blow out the whole company, but you should be taking micro risks and lots of them all the time.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I know people are fearful of failure, but I think a lot of companies don't sit down and go, what does success look like? What does failure look like? What are we actually measuring, and what is the data around that? How do we know when we've failed? Is it because it's a catastrophic, we can't afford to pay our bills this month kind of failure? Or is it that, okay, we've come up with an idea, we're going to test it, here's the parameters, here's what it looks like, here's the data that we're tracking around that. Okay, so then a failure in that sense is only going to be a small failure, and it's going to be a pivot and iteration that we get better on. So I think, data tracking.
I think Nick nailed it. If you're going to fail, don't fail too big. If you're going to fail, if you're going to launch a product and if it fails, your cash flow's wiped out, that's bad business. Small little failures is the way forward. Just be smart about it and manage your cash flow.
Probably don't have that much more to add to that, but I think I see it as it's all right to make mistakes as opposed to it's okay to fail. No, it's not okay to lose your entire company overnight and throw a party because you made a dumb mistake, right? But it's okay to make mistakes, and as long as you learn from it and you don't make it again, I think that's what it's okay to fail means.
We've literally got time for one last question. So this gentleman here.
Hi, my name's Chris. I worked for probably 20 years in a corporate job after uni and all the rest of that, and I've gone out on my own now as an IT consultant. And just curious to know, how far in advance do you plan and how far do you sort of structure the pathways ahead? I'm sort of working out how to jump from just me to a smaller consultancy, but not sure how to begin.
First of all, congratulations. Big move. Big move. For me personally, I don't believe in business plans and 12-month plans and financial forecasts because it's all fairy dust. I can do a financial forecast, but it's bullshit. How do you make these numbers work? I do 90-day sprints. So I do a 3-month plan. What do I want to achieve in those 90 days? I do an action plan. I'm going to do this, this, and this in the next 90 days. Do short little sprints. It'll be better for business. Don't do 12-month plans or 2-year plans because you don't know what's going to happen in 12 months' time.
Good point.
We have a 12-month plan, just to be difficult. So we worked to a 12-month plan. We reverse engineer it top up and bottom down to make sure it makes sense. So we sniff test it. Okay, if we're spending this much on marketing to acquire this many customers, what gets into the top of the funnel? How many of those can we convert from that? How much they're going to spend? What does that look like as a business? Can we afford our overheads? And then sniff test it the other way around. So I think doing that is good business sense. I think whether that's 90 days or 12 months, I think definitely sitting down and making sure it's a viable business. So many people go and launch businesses and then, end up at the end of 12 months realising the unit economics aren't there and it's not actually a viable business, and why do they start? So I think doing that at the start is really, really important.
Honestly, it really just comes down to just iterations. And when we do it, we do the same. We don't call it a sprint, but we do only 3-month plans. When we took a look at actually doing a full year plan, we hit most of our goals in 6. We hit our revenue goal in 6 weeks into the first year. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm not so good at forecasting and planning. So now everything, it's good as well. But then also with that, when you're planning revenue forecasting, you're also planning your overhead, your capital, your people. And then so I had to scramble something I thought I had a year to do. I had to do in 6 weeks, which is very stressful. So now we only do 3-month planning. We also have 5 and 10-year goals and plans, but those are more big, hairy, audacious goals. So that's something we kind of can look to as a guiding thing. Mm-hmm. But from there, everything is done on a 3-month, and we do OKRs, which I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with those, but it's about objectives and key results. It was made really famous by Google. That's how they manage their whole business as far as profiting. There's a lot of literature on it and a lot of good software to use. I highly recommend it.
So to just wrap up, it really sounds like from the conversation that we've had, it's less about focusing on disruption and more focusing on about focus and execution and getting stuff done in a timely manner. And being present to what's going on in your business and kicking goals as quickly as possible. So with no further ado, I'd just like to say thank you very much to each of our panellists. We've got Alex, Nick, Taryn and Nick. Please put your hands together and say a big thank you. Hang around.